So in my last video, I talked about the Canadian economy, and I don't know if my suspicion is that many people actually don't watch the full video and attack on just maybe a couple of words here and there. So I want to bring up this article here. Canadian manufacturing PMI rises to 9-month high in October. Okay, manufacturing numbers tend to be numbers that can help you determine also the recession feel of things, right? How the recession is doing. It tends to be also leading compared to the GDP numbers. And it gives you kind of a good idea of how the manufacturing sector is doing, which relates a lot to the health of the economy. So the Canadian numbers that came out on Monday, the downturn in Canada's manufacturing sector eased in October as output and new orders, which have been held back by trade uncertainty, declined at a slower pace. Data showed on Monday. The S&P Global Canada Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index PMI rose to 49.6 last month from 47.7 in September, posting the highest level since January. A reading below 50 indicates contraction in the sector. I also talked about this previously in my last video relating to the corporate job cuts, right? With the ISM numbers. October surveys pointed to a relative improvement in the performance of Canada's manufacturing sector. Although operating conditions continue to deteriorate, they did so only fractionally as both production and new orders move towards stabilization. So the manufacturing numbers here, the expectation was 48.2. We got 49. A number below 50, yes, is contractionary. It's not the best. But we're not at 41. We're not at 40. We're not at levels where it's completely dog shit. And this is what I keep saying also with the idea of K-shaped economy, which some people didn't watch the full video to understand, is that there's certain sectors that will underperform and do very poorly, and certain sectors that do better. And yes, consumers will feel the pain in all of this because of the higher sticky prices, because of spending in certain economies, because of certain sectors that they're tied to. Let's say, for example, in Canada, the biggest one being real estate, underperforming for some time, right? And at the same time, there doesn't seem to be any hope or any growth since 2022, right? It's been mostly downhill for a lot of the consumers. But when you look at numbers like this, a number that rises to the 9-month high, improving, right? A highest level since January, indicating some improvement there. So what we're seeing here is we're not seeing any crash. We're not seeing any massive, great improvement in the economy. We're seeing more of sideways action. We're seeing more of uncertainty, doubt, and everyone doesn't really know, what direction to take, especially with the corporate leaders out there. And a lot of them are not hiring as they were before. Firing, yes, but not to a massive extent. So it's kind of on standstill here because everyone wants to know, where are we going? Either two things will come out of it. A massive crash coming out of it, or this kind of environment with low growth, higher prices, lower growth in people's income and wages, lower productivity, and people still feeling pain for the next maybe, who knows, I don't know, I'll give a number, 2, 5, 10 years, let's say. So it's interesting to see when these numbers come out, because yes, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's trade uncertainty, there is Canada's ability to basically grow, the costs, the input costs that are rising, the layoffs that are happening. and the number and the index that keeps fluctuating up and down, right? You know, sometimes you see a number above 50, sometimes it's below 50, and it's not that the number is significantly lower to a point where, you know, you start you start signaling that everything has completely deteriorated. Not yet, right? Definitely there's signs. Definitely I don't disagree with the idea that consumers are feeling the pain and it is not looking good for especially Canada. So I don't disagree with that. But we can't say for sure right now that things are going to shit will hit the fan right away until we have more information, until we have more data, until we see the reaction in the economy, in the markets, and until we truly see the Bank of Canada's reaction and the implications of all of this. Yes, I do suspect that with the pause that they have in the rate cuts, that I do suspect some sort of emergency rate cuts to come. But what if it doesn't? So you can never be 100% sure about these things because it's an odds probability games, and actually nobody really truly knows. History does suggest, yes, that the next step forward is if they're going to cut rates super aggressive, it's going to have to be emergency related, right? And again, I can hear it already, and I don't care, but a lot of people going in the comment section and saying that you're an idiot and that we are going to see that and we're going to see those emergency rate cuts happen very, very quickly, very, very soon, and we're going to fall into depression and crash and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to subscribe to that view, and I don't want to be putting the cart ahead of the horse. I want to analyze it from step-by-step point of view, even though I may not 100%, even though I may agree with you from a consumer point of view, but from putting a economics hat on and looking at the data, you have to move diligently and carefully with this. Again, like I said, I'm more on the bias of, you know, contraction here in the Canadian economy. Definitely we see some signs there, but let's not get ahead because anything can change and time will tell for that. So anyways, let me know what you guys think, right, about all of this with the data and with the Canadian economy. Do we see improvements? Do we not? Can we see a possibility, you know, in the past where we had 10 years of sideways action in the real estate market? Sideways and lower prices for the next 10 years? Possible. Very possible. We've seen that before. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, subscribe, hit the like button, bell icon to be notified next video, and I'll see you guys around. Cheers. Bye.